Okay, got us 3 minutes left. Hope, do we know if anybody is from the outside listening in today?
We have currently 9 viewers on YouTube.
Okay, all right. These are such exciting subjects, so
Yes.
no.
Good morning, Bill.
Hey, Bill, I guess you meant Bill Lane, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I didn't see him up here yet. Tom, your video is still not on, Tom Hendrickson.
Yeah, I'm having trouble with a camera here, so I've got to
Okay,
figure
well, your audio is coming through fine. That's more what we need.
Yeah, you'll miss my smiling face.
I know it. I know it.
Damn.
But we have fond memories of that, so we'll be okay.
But I shaved and I've had a haircut, so damn.
About time.
You're not lying. You're not lying. Getting an
Yeah,
error.
we're going to braid your hair next time we saw you.
Yeah, well, tell Jill. Keeps wanting it longer. I said, nope, summertime.
Sometime. I hope we lost the screen, the MFC screen.
Yep, I took it down and gave
Okay.
Corinne the
Okay.
share square because she's going to be in control.
All right, cool.
So I think we're just waiting on Robert.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and start at 11:30, and he can join in. We should have a forum.
Okay.
Even without him. Okay, it is 11:30. I'd like to call this special meeting of the North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission to order. I'd like everybody to refer to the agenda and where we have North Carolina General Statute 138A-15E, which mandates at the beginning of any meeting of a board, the chair shall remind all members of their duty to avoid conflicts of interest under Chapter 138. The chair also shall inquire as to whether there is any known conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before the board at that time. Does anybody have any knowledge of personal conflict of interest with what we're talking about today? There being none, also want you all to reflect on to North Carolina General Statute 143B-289.54.G2, which further clarifies the needing to avoid a conflict of interest. Okay, with that being done, and Laura is up in Washington, D.C. today at, I think, some sort of climate conference or something like that. I'd like to ask Corinne to do our roll call. Corinne? I think you muted. There you go.
When you start opening things up and sharing things, it moves where your controls are.
I understand.
Okay, so for roll call, we'll start with Commissioner Cross.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanton.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Hendrickson?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner McNeil?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Posey?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Roller?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano?
Here.
Thank you. And Chairman Bizzle?
Here.
Thank you.
We have a quorum. We can conduct business. So, moving on, hold on. Has some message come up on there. So moving on, we've got two items of business today. One is to approve our package C, our 9 rules, which is just part of the process that we have to meet at this time to do that, and to have a discussion about some temporary rulemaking notice of text that the Wildlife Resources Commission is doing. So to go take us through the package C, Catherine, are you here to do that, or who is going to be doing that?
Chairman Bizzle, before we go into
Yes.
that, we do need to approve the meeting agenda.
I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I am. Okay, before you is the agenda for today. Is there any discussion on the agenda? If not, may we have a motion to accept it?
So moved.
And please identify yourself.
Tom Roller. So
Tom
moved.
Roller makes the motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second to that?
Second, Hendrickson.
Hendrickson seconds that. Any other discussion on the agenda? If not, let's do the roll call vote on that, Corinne.
Yes, sir. So, Commissioner Cross,
Aye.
Commissioner Blanton, Commissioner Hendrickson,
Come back to him.
Commissioner
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Oh, I heard Commissioner Hendrickson there. Commissioner McNeil.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Posey.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roller,
Aye.
Commissioner Romano,
Aye.
and Chair Bizzle.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously to approve the agenda. Now, going on to our package C of our rulemaking. Catherine, are you going to be doing this, or who have y'all designated, if not her?
Mr. Chairman, I think you're going to be hearing a lot from me today.
Okay.
I think I'm on the hook for both items on the agenda,
All right,
unless anyone from the division wants to jump in as well. So you all have heard from staff and myself on package C for quite a while now. We are finally at what should be, if not the finish line, then maybe just 1 or 2 short strides from it. This is the final adoption of your joint rules, the 9 joint rules that you share with the Wildlife Resources Commission. And these, so we sent these out for public comment. This is now your final adoption before we submit these to the Rules Review Commission. I will say this may not be the very last time that you see them, just because we anticipate receiving feedback from the RRC that there are going to be some technical changes and corrections that need to be made to update these. To the extent that that we can do that without having to involve the commission, we will move forward on making those sorts of technical corrections that don't require discretion from the commission. But we'll see what the feedback we get from the RRC is. So unless there are any specific questions about these, or anyone has any questions about the process, I won't run through these with you again, other than to say we are giving our final approval. Wildlife is scheduled to give their final approval on your 9 rules, I believe later this week on the 28th. And the deadline to have these readopted to avoid having the rules expire is the 30th. So we're going to meet our deadline and have them submitted to the RRC by next month, and we'll see where things go from there.
Okay. As Sean mentioned, these are our rules that we have seen before. Are there any questions for Sean about these rules? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the final adoption of these rules.
This is Commissioner Posey, so moved.
Okay. Let's see, let's get our screen there. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Hendrickson, I believe that was. Any further discussion on these rules? If not, Corinne, would you do a roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Cross.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Blanton.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hendrickson.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner McNeil.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Posey.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Roller.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano
Aye.
and Chair Bizzle.
Aye. The motion for the final adoption to rulemaking package C has been approved unanimously. Okay. Thank y'all for that. Sean, would you take us through the Wildlife Resources Commission's temporary rulemaking and where we stand with that at this point?
Sure. So this is an item that we hadn't discussed at the previous meeting. This was added to today's special agenda, and the reason for that is the Wildlife Resources Commission had previously adopted some permanent rules that are currently awaiting legislative review, and in the meantime, they have submitted this very similar rule language for temporary rulemaking. And for temporary rules, there's a very short 20-day public comment window that has recently opened. And so we wanted to make sure that in order to have the opportunity for the commission to provide feedback on those rules, to the extent that we have a vested interest in some of the species that are being managed under those rules, that we bring this in front of you today. So it was convenient that we already had a reason to get together. The rules that are being proposed by Wildlife are very similar to the rules that we in the division submitted public comment on when they were up for permanent rulemaking. There are some changes to those rules. Not all of them have been submitted as temporary rules. I believe it was 26 out of the 49 were submitted. And there are some slight variations within the specific rule language. And I will give a big thank you to Catherine for doing a pretty in-depth review of the differences. I'm happy to go through those individually, but I'll say in large part they are reductions in the creel limits, specifically with flounder and striped bass. So that there are some slight deviations from the last time that we submitted public comment on these rules. For the most part, they are a more probably conservative management approach than what was previously put forward. But like I said, this is a set of rules that by and large are things that we have presented public comment on previously. And so we wanted to make sure that the commission had the opportunity to again weigh in and provide that feedback. And I will also say the overlap here is not that these are joint rules from Wildlife. The overlap is that a number of these rules deal with species that we typically consider marine and estuarine species. And the feedback that I understand that our staff has gotten from Wildlife is that for some of these species when they're in inland water, so these rules deal only with inland water. They're not joint or they're not coastal fishing waters, but to the extent that the extent that marine or estuarine resources are found in inland waters, these are the rules that Wildlife would be applying. And my understanding from discussions with our staff and their discussions with wildlife are that there's some concern there that there might be a bit of a loophole that those species might not be regulated. And so I understand this to be a good faith effort on the part of wildlife, but I know that we have had specific thoughts and concerns in the past. And so, again, this is an opportunity to provide that feedback. And I think also fits into the larger discussion that we have had with wildlife as far as joint management in joint waters, and also kind of addressing as part of that really who is managing what species. And so, again, I think that this is a good opportunity for the commission to address concerns similar to what we did last time, and to hopefully encourage some further dialogue along that front, because we have so many ongoing discussions with wildlife about some of these larger issues. So, and I will also say the rules themselves were linked in Laura's June 15th email, and so they are available through there if you've got any specific questions on rule language. And I'll also say what we would be looking for today would be approval from the commission to submit public comment on those rules. And again, it would be along similar lines of what we submitted previously, with maybe some additional guidance about encouraging that further discussion. And I also understand that it is likely that the division will also be submitting comment along similar lines to what they submitted the last time through. So with that, happy to take any questions, or also happy to hear from the division as far as what their plans might be.
Before we get any discussion, what I hope that we get out of all of this is where we ask Sean to write a letter or address these rules on our behalf with the concerns that have been brought forward by the commission, by staff, by he and I. We've had a lot of discussions. The staff and us have a lot of discussions, and we just have a lot of concerns on multiple levels on a number of these things. So is there any questions about any of the particular rules or what we want to do? Commissioner Posey.
Just a point where I'm a little bit confused. I thought that the Secretary's office had asked us, both commissions, not to initiate any new rules until there had been joint discussions, which is the reason why we had a vote a while back just to continue existing rules. Can you clarify that? I think I may have misunderstood some of that.
Sean?
I'd be happy to. Yeah, the distinction there is the guidance we received, not just from the secretary, but from the governor, was that we were to proceed with what we did in our first agenda item today, which was just the joint rules needed to be readopted as is. This is outside that setting. This is rules that would apply just in inland waters. So these are only wildlife rules. Like I said, the carryover, the crossover is that a number of these rules manage species that are within the jurisdiction of the Marine Fisheries Commission, marine and estuarine resources. And so it is not a joint rule in the sense that you would be required to give your concurrence on it. But to the extent that it is a species that this body is tasked with regulating, it is something that I think we are interested in. So it is not something that we received specific guidance and we're told do not do this while the joint rule discussion is pending. And so it falls outside of that category, and so that's why they are able to move forward and not be at cross paths with the governor's office.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Who's that?
Hendrickson.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Anderson. So,
and Sean, the piece, you're not 100, and when I read it, and you may tell me I'm wrong, but 10C0314 actually goes beyond inland waters to joint waters, and would establish the Wildlife Resources Commission as basically the sole hook and line authority in joint waters, and gives the WRC director proclamation authority in joint waters as to striped bass. Number one, and I'd like to clarify that. So it's not just inland waters, but it is also where we go beyond, from a precedent standpoint. The significance of this that I see is that it's a beginning point of the discussion of who, we have historically had the role of managing the fishery species upon which that we have management plans. And this is the first step in the regulations toward eroding that, if I'm reading it correctly. I'd like your view on both of those, please, sir.
Sean?
Yeah, and that's your first point is one that we obviously addressed first time around and would continue to do so here, because that's just a difference of the way that we interpret statute and rule. And so that's, thank you, Commissioner Hendrickson, for highlighting that. That is something that absolutely we have, I believe, and forgive me for saying we so frequently, but on your behalf, there have certainly been strong feelings about that interpretation, and I would expect that would be a prominent theme in anything that we were to submit on your behalf this time around as well. So I do agree with you that is an area where we have disagreed with wildlife in the past, and I think that disagreement continues, and something that, like I said, hopefully we can resolve as part of the larger discussion taking place on joint rules, joint authority, those types of things. And forgive me, I've gotten so wrapped up in that. The first one, remind me of your second question.
So there were two. One was just that it took unilateral authority on striped bass in the joint waters. So I was just making clear that this is not just an inland waters temporary set of rules. And then secondly, as to inland waters, it exercises authority over the species that we have had management plans, and that we have historically had the authority of those species, not the freshwater species, but the typical marine saltwater species. So those are the two separate policy matters, but both significant.
And I'm happy to reflect both of those in public comment submitted on the Commission's behalf. And yeah, I think particularly your second point is very much the reason why we would have an interest in anything that speaks to regulating flounder, red drum, all sorts of species that are marine and estuarine resources, but may happen to be found at any given time in inland water. So I take both of those points and would be happy to continue to convey those in the Commission's public comment.
One other small point, and I would make sure that Commissioner Blanton saw this, is I noted that in their descriptions on some of the other species, croaker, but particularly of note, blue crab, and I don't know how much beyond the inland lines you're doing any crabbing, but no crabs could be sold that were caught if you were doing any crabbing in inland waters. But that's out of beyond something I know. But I noticed they apply no sale, and then they particularly have a provision relative to any sort of other fish caught in a commercial setting. So it falls in line with why some of this is probably a bad idea or inconsistent with the rules that we've had.
Okay, Doug, Commissioner Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would concur with your sentiments and with Tom's and everybody's that it is disturbing with this temporary rulemaking that they're basically trying a flanking maneuver of some kind to circumvent the process. And I would strongly urge the commission to stand with, to direct Sean to write a very strongly worded letter with our concerns that we continue to have, because we're tasked with managing these species that we've always managed. And now, they're basically wanting to manage them in inland waters versus what we're doing. And they don't have the background, the expertise, the FMPs or anything to take that on. I mean, we do, and we have done this for years. So I would leave the freshwater species, if I was the state, to the Wildlife Commission they're already managing, and leave what we currently have that we've been doing work on for countless years to us. And I would strongly recommend sending that letter as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Is that a motion?
Absolutely, sir. However you want to word it.
Okay. Corinne, let's get this up here so we can get us a motion for consideration.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Blanton. I will second that motion.
Okay.
Commissioner Cross, how exactly do you want this worded?
Can I defer to Sean on how he'd like the properly
Find an
worded?
appropriate letter. How about that? Or
That's fine.
to address our concerns.
That's fine.
And can we actually call that a public, submit public comment
Okay.
on behalf of the commission?
Write a letter to.
To submit public comment.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
We get rid of write a letter.
Would you like me to just leave it at concerns since Sean already knows what those concerns are, or would you like me to elaborate?
I don't
Chairman?
think we're going to be able to elaborate because there's a lot of concerns to address my concerns. Sean, does that give you enough to do what we know you need to do?
I think between that and the guidance that you all have provided during the deliberation of this matter, and being consistent with the public comment submitted during the permanent rulemaking process on these similar rules.
Okay.
So,
all right.
yes, I think I've got enough to work with.
And Commissioner Cross, does this capture your motion?
Yes, sir.
And Commissioner Blanton, you did second this, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, there being none, Corinne, would you do the roll call vote, please?
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Cross,
Aye.
Commissioner Blanton,
Aye.
Commissioner Hendrickson,
Aye.
Commissioner McNeil,
Hey.
Commissioner Posey,
Aye.
Commissioner Roller,
No.
Commissioner Romano,
Aye.
Chair Bizzle.
Aye. Motion passes 7-2. All right. That concludes our business on the agenda and therefore concludes this special meeting. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to attend this. We're adjourned.